You've been searching for the best way to generate passive income in your life and heard that real estate is a great way to do it. But you're tired of all the so-called gurus who are all talk and no substance. Get ready to celebrate because Kevin Buck has spent 14 years successfully making it happen. This is the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. Now, here's Kevin Buck.
Hey guys, Kevin Buck here with episode number 181 of the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. Our mission is to help you build and maintain massive amounts of cash flow through income-producing real estate investments. And our guest for this week's show is real estate marketing and branding expert Mike Whaling. Mike is the founder of 30lines.com, which is a digital media company specific to the real estate and multifamily industry that specializes in lead and traffic generation. Now, the important thing you need to understand about this interview today with Michael is that although he specializes in the multifamily space, these strategies that we're going to discuss today can basically apply to any different type of asset that you're investing, whether it be multifamily or mobile home parks or shopping centers or any other type of real estate that you might be investing in. And not only that, but we'll also cover how to utilize these strategies to help create and grow your personal brand should this be an interest to you. Whether it be for your own company or as an individual, it's vitally important to build a strong presence in your respective niche, and that's exactly what Mike's going to share with us today. And to provide full disclosure, this interview with Mike is about a year and a half old, and so there were a few mentions of common household technology apps such as Periscope or Facebook Live and a few others. These were all fairly new applications when I conducted this interview a year and a half ago, and I'm just mentioning this so that you don't think that I'm completely behind the times or crazy by bringing those things up. And so in this show with Mike, you're going to learn the following. You're going to learn how he found himself in the multifamily marketing niche. You're going to learn the difference between owned space and rented space. You're going to learn how to quickly get a professional website built for you or your property, even if you have zero technical experience. You'll learn how to repurpose existing content to use in various media channels to drive more of a presence to your property or your own brand. You're going to learn the benefits of creating a personal brand for yourself and how to use it when dealing with bankers, lenders, brokers, sellers, and everyone else that you come in contact with on a regular basis within your business. You'll learn how to use keywords and specific phrases on Twitter to gain a competitive edge on your competition. You're going to learn the power of live streaming video through Facebook Live and how this may offer many competitive advantages to landlords and property management companies alike. You'll learn how to leverage the power of a digital media to change the perception of a value-add property that needs rebranded. You'll learn how to create attractive non-cash incentives for new tenant referrals. You'll learn about the importance of high-quality photographs and how professional photos will place you leaps and bounds ahead of your competition, and much, much more. And so, guys, I'm real excited to get onto the show with Michael, but before we do, I have a few important items I want to run through with you real quickly. The countdown has officially begun for our second mobile home park fund offering, and I'm excited about that because our team and I, we really pride ourselves in our ability to find incredibly profitable mobile home parks, even in the most competitive real estate market like we find ourselves in today, right? Deals are really hard to come by. Brokers are basically putting things out for highest and best offer, and you're out there competing against everyone and their brother who's willing to pay more than you are for it, okay? But we're really good at finding off-market deals, okay? We do work with brokers, but that's not really our secret sauce. We've spent many years researching hundreds of markets throughout the U.S., and we've essentially built a proprietary database of mobile home park owners and operators, which allows us to go direct to the decision maker and typically negotiate much better deals than one would be able to get on the open marketplace. Now, we currently have 6 mobile home parks in contract today. Okay, we keep adding more to that list. And so we got 6 mobile home parks in contract today and a bunch more in the pipeline behind that. And so if you'd like the opportunity of partnering with us on one of these future opportunities, then take a few minutes, go over to sunrisecapitalinvestors.com and create a free account inside our investment portal. This will essentially place you on the first to know basis when fund number 2 rolls out. Again, it's going to be less than 30 days when this thing rolls out. And based on our past experience, we're expecting these subscriptions to fulfill pretty quickly. So if you have an interest, you'd like to learn more, again, go over to sunrisecapitalinvestors.com and we'll look forward to meeting you. Next up, guys, we are seeking additional opportunities. Like I said, we've got 6 parks in contract, but we're always looking for more deals. I've had a lot of you over the past couple of months send opportunities our way, which I love. I love kind of working with others that are out there in the hunt, right? They're looking for deals, whether it be mobile home parks or other type of real estate. If you're out there in the hunt, you're going to come across other opportunities. And so if these opportunities happen to be mobile home parks, then I'd love to hear about it. Maybe it's a deal that you can't necessarily take down on your own and you need a partner that has capital and a track record, or maybe you're just looking to flip it for a referral fee, okay? We're open to all those scenarios. And so if it's a mobile home park that has a minimum of 60 spaces, okay, 60 spaces is the minimum we're looking for. So if it's 60 spaces or larger, I'd love to learn more about it. You can shoot me an email directly to kevin@kevinbupp.com. That's my personal email address. Again, kevin@kevinbupp.com. We've got the ability to handle deals upwards of $25 million, and we're open to portfolio deals as well. So it doesn't just have to be a single one-off deal. We can handle and take down multiple deal portfolios as well. We've got a couple deals in contract right now. We're paying some pretty hefty referral fees on, and so I would love to put some of that money in your pocket as well. So if you come across something, please reach out to us. Lastly, guys, if you happen to be in the Tampa Bay area, it's where we're based. I always make this mention because I love meeting others. In fact, I actually had lunch today with a podcast listener that came in from Northwest Ohio. So Drew, awesome time meeting today. I probably have these different types of lunch meetings or, meet for coffee with out-of-towners probably a couple times a month, and it's a lot of fun. I get to meet others that share the same passion for this business that I do, and it doesn't have to be mobile home parks. That's what we love, but Drew's in the small multifamily space, and he's absolutely killing it up in Northwest Ohio, and I love meeting others in this business. So if you find yourself in the Tampa Bay area and you've got some extra time while you're here visiting, let me know when you're coming. Just shoot me an email. Again, my personal email is kevin@kevinbupp.com, and let me know when you're coming into town. And we'll see if we can get our schedules to coordinate with one another. And now, guys, let's get on to the part that you've been waiting for, which is our interview with Michael Whaling. So here we go. All right, guys, today on the show, we're honored to be joined by online and social media marketing expert Mike Whaling. Mike is the founder of 30lines.com, which is a digital media company that helps businesses drive more traffic and convert more leads through online tools, including websites, email marketing, search engine optimization, and social media. He co-moderates the weekly apartment chat on Twitter to discuss current trends impacting apartment companies, and he's co-authored the ebook, Getting Inside the Mind of the Online Renter. Mike was named a top 10 promoter of technology for the multifamily industry, serves as a technology advisor to Men's Health Living magazine, and has been featured in numerous publications including Urban Land Magazine, Multifamily Executive, Multi-Housing News, Bloomberg Businessweek, and Entrepreneur Magazine. So without further ado, let's welcome Mike Whaling to the show. Mike, how you doing today?
Hey, Kevin, I am doing well. Thanks for having me and looking forward to spending some time today with you and your audience.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. And just to give our listeners a sense of geography, where are we calling you at today?
I am in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay, good deal. Columbus has become a very trendy city, hasn't it? I was there a few years back, and I was very surprised because it had been about 15 years since I had been there prior. And it's a hip little town. Not a hip little town, it's a hip city now, right?
We are quietly doing some big things here, and if you ever get a chance to come into town, there's the city's doing some amazing work just to really make it a great place to live and work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mike, before we dig into the meat and potatoes of today's discussion, why don't I pass the mic back to you? And if you would take a few minutes and you'll fill in some of the gaps that I might have had there in the introduction and give our listeners a little bit more background about yourself and how you got into this industry.
Sure. I don't know if there's too many gaps, so you had to quit the intro. So I got into this industry actually working with a vendor. I was working for a little engineering firm down in Florida, actually, down in Daytona Beach. And we were doing engineering. We were doing on-site technology design. So our company had a bunch of engineers, and we would design all of the technology going into bigger apartment buildings and student housing projects. So, if there's a security system or the gate security or access control or Wi-Fi throughout the whole property, putting in any kind of satellite TV systems, all of that technology we were doing. And so we were working with these institutional investors, really great look at how they were doing their marketing, how they were positioning their new projects, and, how they were coming to us and asking for the latest in technology. But we were a small firm, and so we didn't have a huge marketing budget. And that's kind of my background. So we were doing a lot with, I had to learn as I went, and I had to be really creative with our marketing to get in front of those people so that we could grow our business. for the engineering firm. So we spent a lot of time with National Apartment Association, with National Multi-Housing Council, and some of the events that groups like that were doing. Got to hear a lot of the things that those developers and those apartment owners were incorporating into their marketing. So, at the time, we were going to these conferences and we were hearing a lot of lip service of, hey, you need to be on social media. Our residents are on social media. There's all this whole new world of possibility. And, at the time it was MySpace, right? Every apartment community, every property owner has to be on MySpace. And, I would sit there and I'd pull up the MySpace page of the property, and you could tell that it was like some intern put it together in 20 minutes on a Saturday afternoon, and it's got the blingy flashing background and, a Jay-Z music video with like auto playing, that kind of stuff. So it was just kind of ridiculous. So, I started moonlighting and I actually started with a blog and just started blogging about some of the things that I was seeing, some of the marketing trends that were happening, and why apartment marketers should be paying attention to that and how they could apply it in their business. And, before you know it, I'd, probably had the blog up there and was just talking for maybe a month, not even. And I had my first client reach out to me and say, hey, I like what you're writing. I believe in what you're talking about. And, we were off and running. So I started the business from there, really just doing it part-time, building the business as I was still working with the engineering firm. And, it wasn't too long before it was kind of a do or die time, make the decision and take the leap and go off and start on my own. So we started with the social media. We started with the search engine optimization, creating the content to build that presence, but, really kind of evolved. So we started doing website design. Really what we saw, Kevin, was that we were talking about content. We had people that were interested in engaging us to create content for them, but it's like inviting people to a party, but you haven't really cleaned the house. So what we did, we saw that there were a lot of cases where the website wasn't a place where we really wanted to send a lot of traffic. A lot of GeoCities looking type of things that, clearly hadn't been updated in a while. And so we just wanted to, we saw an opportunity there to jump in and say, hey, we can clean this up. We can give you a better website, something that functions better and looks better across all different kinds of devices. And then we can take once we have that base, once we have that foundation, then we can move back to how are we going to create the content and create the online presence that drives traffic into this great new online hub.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting. So, and when did this all take place? I mean, when did you actually start that blog that you refer to?
Started in 2008. Okay. And, so that's really when we started the business and got really heavy into kind of the website side and some of the email marketing. We really started doing that about 2010.
Okay. Exciting, man. That's interesting. So you're only blogging for 1 month and you had your first client reach out to you. It's kind of off and running from that point on. And at what point did you make that transition? I mean, what was that like? How long after that? About a year, you said, before you truly took the leap of faith and went out on your own, or what was that time frame like?
Yeah, it was probably about a year and a half before I jumped into 30 Lines full time.
Okay, good deal. Well, what I'd like to do with you today, Mike, since we've got your brain on the phone, and you're the guy. You deal with big players. I mean, guys that own thousands and thousands of doors, and so I mean, you really are the I hate the word guru, but I'm going to call you a guru today. Okay, you really are the guru in this space, and so I really want to take today's show and I want to attack it from two different angles. And I kind of give you a broad background of what our listener base looks like, who they are, and what size portfolios they have. So I guess in comparison to some of the clients you work with, we're somewhat the little guys. I mean, majority of our listeners probably have under 1,000 units. And there's probably some out there that have more than that. But I mean, so we're somewhat little guys, but we're very agile in that point. So we can duck and move and bob and weave pretty quick. And we also know, most of us know, if we're not utilizing any kind of online presence for our properties or for ourselves to add credibility, or if we're not using social media, we know that we should be. So there's two categories. Either we know that we should be and we're not, or we already are, but maybe we're not even doing that great of a job at it, or we could be doing a better job. So the two angles that I'd really like to take today is the first angle being using online and social media strategies to build your personal brand. Now, this angle comes from a standpoint of we have a listener base that are either just getting started as real estate investors, or maybe they've bought a few single family homes, maybe some small multifamily properties, duplexes, things like that. But they're really getting to the point now where they've got maybe a little bit of a track record, but they really want to ramp up their game a little bit. They need to build a presence for themselves, really something that can lend some credibility to them. Both with lenders, bankers, sellers, brokers. I mean, just they need that presence there. And so I want to talk about how that type of individual can utilize these strategies that we're about to talk about to help build their presence and build their credibility online, whether it be a personal website, social media interaction on different forums, even a podcast like we're doing right now. I mean, this podcast has really introduced me to a world of new business that it didn't have prior. So YouTube's out there, ebooks. There's all kinds of digital media that can actually really help fuel the growth of an individual that's in this business. And then the second angle, before we talk about that yet, the second angle I want to take today, and I know we're limited on time, but hopefully we'll get to both of these. The second angle I want to take is to kind of go to the other end of the spectrum and talk about some of the strategies that the existing property owners that are listening in, the ones that own properties already, the different strategies they can use to leverage the power of the web and social media to help grow their multifamily or commercial property. And things like, if they need to increase their occupancy, how can they utilize the web and social media to do that, get referrals? Maybe they're doing a turnaround project and they want to change the reputation from really bad to good, whatever it might be. So I'm going to stop blabbing now, because otherwise we're going to run out of time if I keep on running my mouth. So let's go back to angle number one, and let's focus on that first. Sure. And let's talk about that individual that is just getting started or maybe owns just a few properties. How can they utilize the power of the web and social media to help build their own brand and add some credibility to themselves?
I think that before we dive into the social piece of it, I want to make sure that we go back and set that foundation of, and this is a great analogy for this industry, is you want to make sure that you understand the difference between owned space and rented space. And in the online world, your website and your email list are your own space. That's the place, that's the land that you own, that you control every piece of the message and every piece of what goes out and how it looks and how it feels and what you're asking people to do. Social media that's rented space. So that's the area where you're kind of beholden to Facebook and their rules and how they're adjusting the news feed and Twitter and what they're doing and any of these other sites that you choose to use. You have to make sure that you understand that that's great, and that could be a good avenue, a good gateway to get people to help discover what you're doing and how you might be able to help them, get them back to your website or get them into your email list. But ideally, we always want to focus on website and email first, build that stuff, and then drive all the traffic back. And you're doing the exact same thing with the podcast, right? So podcast is a great way for you to tell your story and talk to a lot of different people in the industry, get a lot of great exposure. But I also can see that you're trying to drive as much of that traffic back to your website as possible. So so you're living this example. So that's really where I would start. Is let's have it doesn't have to be a flashy website. Doesn't have to be. I would rather have a good website that is easy to use and looks nice, and spend the rest of my money on driving traffic to that website and delivering value to the people that get there, than spending a ton of money on a beautiful website that nobody ever sees.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then for the technology disadvantage like myself, or those that don't actually know how to go build their own website, I mean, I know there's some tools out there that are kind of just like drop and click and things like that. What are some simple methods that the average person that isn't a web developer, designer, doesn't even know how to go hire a virtual assistant or hire a team or someone like yourself to do it, can they do it themselves? I mean, is it as simple as that, or do they need professional help from someone like you?
Yeah. Yeah, of course they need professional help. No,
I set you up on that one. Huh?
No, I think that there's publishing a website is easier than ever, and there's all kinds of great templates out there, design tools. I would start with something like we do everything in WordPress. WordPress is traditionally was kind of built for blogs, but now it can really handle everything. And I think the last stat that I saw is like over 25% of the entire web uses WordPress.
Wow.
But that's actually a free system to start with.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then there's all kinds of themes and designs and add-ons that you can use to make it do what you want to do and get it to look the way that you want it to look. But you can go buy a premium theme for WordPress for under $100 and be off and running and have a site that looks really good. Another good option that I would look at would be something like a Squarespace, mm-hmm. where really, really minimal investment. I think that their prices start like $8 a month, but they're a little more straightforward in that you don't have to do all of the building by yourself. Really, it's just kind of a more plug and play. You pick the template you want, you throw in the pictures, you add your text, and they've kind of got everything already built for you. Not quite as flexible, but still lots of great options, lots of great designs, a really good way to, build that home base for everything you're doing on the web.
Are they as well liked, like a Squarespace, or I think Wix, I think is another one? Are they as well liked by like Google and Yahoo and the other search engines as like a WordPress site? I mean, that's a good question to ask, Greg. I mean, I've heard WordPress is by far it's the king as it comes to content and how Google and Yahoo and all them scrape the content off the site. I mean, I'm probably explaining that wrong. I'm not using good terminology as I say that. So. Yep. Give me an idea of whether or not those other sites are relevant or not.
We can get in the weeds really fast on
okay,
SEO,
we won't go too far.
The search engine optimization, but here's what I'll say is we have seen that some systems are better than others. WordPress is outstanding for SEO. We've seen that Wix has some trouble sometimes. So there is a difference. I think Squarespace is probably somewhere in the middle. But let's take the opportunity to talk about really the way that we look at SEO. It's very easy to dive in and get really deep into the technical piece of it. But if you think about yourself as a consumer, what are you using Google for and what are you expecting to find? Really, now if we're thinking about it as a marketer, SEO is all about being the best answer. So whatever that person is typing into their Google, search bar, what's going to be the best answer? That's Google's job. Google's job is to sort through the trillions of pages on the internet and figure out the best possible answer for that person based on what they typed and what they've searched for in the past and what device they're on at the moment and where they're physically located and who they're connected to and all of the other factors that Google looks at. They're just trying to get the best answer to that person. So for us as marketers, we just have to look into our crystal ball and say, what are the questions that people are going to ask? And how do we be the best answer? And we're not always going to be in a position where we can be the best answer. And that's where advertising and social media and some of these other things come into play. But there are a lot of cases where if we just kind of take that mindset, take that approach of what are people looking for and what's going to be the best answer, then we can create the type of content, we can create the pages on our website that match that, and we can talk about that in, really not too dissimilar to, you probably get a lot of questions about, hey, love this episode, wish you could talk about this. And that's giving you feedback to help you know what your future episodes should be about. And that's really the same type of thing that we should be looking at with the rest of our content is how do we create that content that answers those questions that we know come up all the time when people are searching for apartments or have questions about their lease or have questions about renewals or any of those kinds of things.
I mean, your blog, when you launch your blog, that's a perfect example of it. You're writing about what was relevant content, what people were searching for. That's how within 30 days, you found your first client because you were writing about a relevant topic that obviously was a topic that was in demand, that was being searched for. So is that something to where with Google, when we have content, so we have our static pages on our website. If we build, let's say we build a personal site like my website, kevinbupp.com. I don't have a blog attached to it. I'm a terrible writer. That's why I podcast, because I'm a horrible writer. So it's easier to speak. But from a blog standpoint, I'm assuming that Google and the other search engines probably really like websites that have new content being added on a regular basis. Am I correct with that assumption? Or
yeah, I certainly think that relevancy trumps new. You hear the term fresh content a lot, and certainly Google, we can kind of train Google to come back to our website and look for more stuff if Google sees that, hey, this is a website that is constantly providing good information, and we need to kind of tune into that and make sure that we're capturing the latest information. So we can kind of teach Google to look for that fresh content, but still, I think you want to be the best answer, even if that answer is 2 years old. Maybe it's time to go back to that article you wrote and update it for today's information.
Gotcha.
But, this is a good, to your point about podcasting versus blogging. I know a lot of people that aren't really big on writing, or, if you look at some of the social media trends, there are people that aren't very big on video. They don't want to, they don't want to be in front of the camera. And so they don't want to be the next they would love to be the next YouTube star, except they hate being in front of the camera. Right. And so that's really where there's a lot of opportunities with all these social media sites to repurpose your content. So, for you, maybe we take the podcast and you turn it into a transcript that then becomes a blog post.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have the show notes for every episode where you post all of the relevant links to everything that we're going to talk about today.
Right.
And that's your blog post, and you listen to the podcast episode, and then you get the links, and people can comment on it, and they can share that post and those kinds of things. So lots of opportunities there to take the content we already have and repurpose it in a way that works really well on social media. A great example would be, take your favorite quotes, or take the questions you get all the time, give your answer, and just turn that into a text image. And, share that up on your Twitter account or Facebook or Pinterest or, any one of these. But those text images are things that people love to share.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And, going back to your point of the social media, the way to, repurpose content. I mean, in fact, I was just at a conference last week, and something that I've really been kicking myself in the butt for, and it was really confirmed at this conference is, Google loves video, right? I mean, everyone loves video. I mean, especially, I forget what the stats were. You can probably tell us what these are, but I mean, in terms of the number of users that are actually like in front of a TV at night, like that in their home, everyone's got TVs in their home, but they're saying like, on average, I think it was like 80% of people watching TV have another device, a smart device in their hands at the same time when they're watching television. And most of the time they're watching video, or they're on some kind of social media app, right? I mean, and so with me, the one big, aha moment at this conference, it wasn't really aha, because I knew, 2 years ago that I should have been doing the same thing. But with the podcast, it's all audio. Everything I do is in an audio format, whereas I could have been actually recording the video portion of this. And even if it was just a video on me speaking into my microphone in my office without anything on the other side, that video still could have added as another searchable tool, or another searchable media format in YouTube, and I could have just extracted the audio and made the podcast out of it. So I could have had this post, or this conversation we're having right now, in two different areas, whereas right now it's only in one because I didn't do the YouTube video. But it's just amazing, and I haven't done transcripts either, and I think that's a brilliant way to just continually add valuable content to your website. So, for those that are listening into this, and, we're talking about really just helping you brand yourself, and it's very important to do that, because I can tell you that the first thing I do when I talk to in fact, before I had this interview with Mike, I can tell you that what I did is I Googled his name. And I mean, actually I did it yesterday before this, but I Googled his name and I went to his website. I went to his company website and I tried to read as much as I could about him and find out who he is and what he's up to. Well, people are going to be doing that with you as well. Even if you're a small time investor and you're looking to get big, you're going to be going to bankers, you're going to be going to lenders, you're going to be going to commercial brokers. I can promise you that if those individuals have smartphones or computers, that most of them are going to be Googling your name. And why not present yourself in the best way possible. Have your website up. Have some good professional content on that website. Have your a little bit about your experience. If you've got properties that you currently own now, tell a little bit about them. If they were turnaround properties, give the story of the opportunity you saw, how you turned them around. But just really position yourself as that expert. It's very helpful, and it's relevant. It's relevant, especially in this day and age. So. Mike, do you have anything to add to that?
It's kind of that. It's I look at that as like you kick the tires and you check under the hood, make sure everything looks good. And you just want to make sure that, I think in a lot of cases, people just want to validate the decision that they maybe have already made. So how do I just, I'm just going to check their website, make sure that everything looks good, and make sure that this is somebody that looks like I would want to do business with. And like, do they look like they have some understanding of what a modern business looks like today?
Right.
And we do this all the time, unconsciously, subconsciously, is we make these judgments based on perception. And
Absolutely.
So if you don't have that content out there, if you don't have that presence, whether it's through social media or through your website or through your email list, if you don't have the things out there to help people formulate the perception you want them to come away with, then that's where you're missing those opportunities to have, to raise your credibility and be a local thought leader and grow your business that way.
Yep, absolutely. And if there is something that you feel you're really good, everyone's got a skill, right? So if you find out that one skill or those couple of skills that you're really good at, maybe it's, you just bought a 50-unit property, you turned it around, you did it in record time, and you added X amount of value to it, right? I mean, something that's an expertise now. You write about it, write an ebook about it, do something. I mean, you can easily write an ebook about it. You can even verbalize it and have it transcribed. But just continually add this content that we're talking about to this website that you've created, just to again help position yourself as that expert and add some credibility to yourself. And there's a ton of other tools out there as well. And I want to talk about this a little bit, Mike. Is social media. I mean, there's tons of different ways that they can gain exposure on these different social media avenues, like Facebook, there's Twitter. And I mean, talk to me a little bit from your perspective how important these different social media tools are from what we're talking about. We're talking about helping brand someone's individual identity as a real estate investor. How important are these different the Facebooks of the world, Twitters, YouTubes, things like that? How important are they to use?
I think that you're going to get out of them what you put into them. I think that there's a huge difference between doing social media, because every expert tells you you need to be on social media, and actually being social. I'll say that again, just because I think it's important. Like, don't just do social media, be social and use the tools that are out there to make the connections that help your business move forward.
What does that mean? So, give me an example.
So, I think that there's a lot of different ways that we could go with this, but you mentioned, you rattled off a bunch of different sites. Well, that's great, but every one of those sites has a different format, a different context, a different way that people use those sites. And we need to understand that, and understand that when we go into social media, we are competing for people's attention. And that's not just against our competitors, that's against their family and their grandkids, and that's against their college buddies that they keep up with on Facebook, and it's against every other business that's trying to get in front of them, and it's against all of the publishers that are posting funny videos about the panda bear rolling down the hill because it loves snow at the National Zoo. Like, that's the kind of stuff that's getting shared on social media. So if we're going to jump in and talk about real estate investing or the deal that we're working on, like, is that really the best thing to be putting on Facebook?
Yeah.
If you have your audience really defined, and if you know that those people are following you and you're able to generate those relationships, maybe that is. Mm-hmm. But I think that's the one thing that I would say with social media. But, one of the things that I would look at is, like, look at the social aspect of it too. So, we love Twitter for this. Twitter is a phenomenal social media tool for listening for what people are talking about, listening for opportunities, and then turning those into, kind of serendipitous conversations to get in front of people and see if there's anything there. So I'll give you an example. We have a client in Chicago, and they have some apartment buildings on the near north side, Lincoln Park and Lakeview, and some really cool neighborhoods in Chicago. And one of the things that we do for them is we listen on Twitter for things like moving to Chicago, just got a new job, looking for a roommate, starting school in Chicago. Like, any of those things, we probably got about 50 or 60 different terms that we plug them into Twitter, and we just check them once a day. Takes 10 minutes. And we just see if there's any conversations there that are interesting, so that we can, to that kid who lives in St. Louis and just got a job in Chicago, and he's going to be starting in September. We'll just reach out to him and say, "That's awesome. Congrats on the new gig. You're going to love Chicago. Welcome to the neighborhood." And that's it. And we just leave it there. We don't even sell anything. We just want to make sure that they know who we are and that we noticed.
And you'd be making that comment from the profile of your client, right? Which would be a big apartment operator.
Yes.
Per se. Okay.
Yes. So that's coming from the apartment company. And, more often than not, what happens is that tweet gets liked. All of a sudden, that person starts a conversation with us and says, hey, I actually am going to need an apartment. Or we'll see that person will then, go into the property management company's blog. They'll follow us on Twitter. They'll like us on Facebook, and we can see that those will turn into future leads and future leases. So it's stuff that we see, and that's not a unique situation. We have clients doing that all over the country.
Do you actually have a way to track that? I mean, can you track that whole flow process?
We can actually, most of it, and we can see, but yes, so we can see a lot of that. And some of the things that we're doing, like even a simple tool like Bitly, bit.ly is just it's a way to shorten the link so you can share it on social media and you actually get some stats there. So instead of saying, "Hey, why don't you check out our website at xyz.com," you throw it into Bitly. And then you're able to see exactly when those people are clicking through. So, that's just a really simple example.
Gotcha. And when you're actually searching for these different keywords or key phrases, are you plugging those in manually, or do you guys have them like preset? Is there a tool out there that you guys have them preset and you just do the search?
Yeah. So, you can actually even save them right on Twitter.com and go back to them anytime you want.
Oh, really? Okay.
Any of the major social, if you look at like a Hootsuite or a Sprout Social or any of those kinds of like social media dashboard tools, Hootsuite's one of the ones that we use here, and we can plug those in, and we just have kind of a stream of if anybody uses any of those phrases, it just instantly pops up on our screen.
You can obviously tell from my questions that I don't use Twitter a lot, but I'm going to.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing though, right? Is like there's all kinds of different social media tools out there.
Yeah.
So we have to understand, what is our audience actually using?
Right.
What are they doing? What are they using those tools for? Mm-hmm. And I think that has to play a huge part in how we use those social media tools.
Sure, exactly. Okay, good deal. And just real briefly, I know we're kind of I'm looking at the time clock here, and I want to get on to the second topic of discussion, which is some of these strategies, how we can implement some of these strategies to leverage the power of the web and social media to help grow our multifamily property, like techniques that we're already talking about a little bit here now. But before we get on to that, I want to talk about there's a few new things, new tools that came onto the marketplace, and I want to get your take on whether or not you think they have a good fit for what we're talking about here today. One being Periscope, another one I think is like Blab. I don't know how exactly what Blab is. Honestly, I just heard about it the other day, and I think Facebook probably has something similar to Periscope as well. And there's probably a few other tools that I haven't mentioned. But can you tell us a little bit about those new tools? And I mean, are you seeing them being utilized in your space? And if so, have they been beneficial?
They have. So everything that you just mentioned there is kind of in the same space of what I would call live streaming video.
Okay.
And there's a number of other ones out there, but the big ones are going to end up being Facebook live video, and then the one that's owned by Twitter, which is called Periscope. Blab is along the same lines. Blab is a little bit more of a chat, but it's still live video chat. But we see that we see a lot of opportunity for this in multifamily. And that is because we see that there's a lot of people that, multifamily apartments is one of those businesses where for, 90% of the cases, 95% of the cases, people want to see the apartment before they sign the lease. Mm-hmm. And so if they can't get to the property to take that tour when you're physically opening the door and walking them through, then what's the next best thing through some kind of either virtual tour or through some kind of, we have clients that do this with FaceTime or do this with Skype. But the beauty of Facebook video, the beauty of Periscope is that you can publicly broadcast a walkthrough of your property, and you can be talking through all of the great aspects of why somebody would want to live here and the things that they're going to love about the neighborhood. And people can chat with you and ask questions in real time. And you can have as many people taking that same tour as you can get there. So, we do this now. We actually have a client where they put it up on their website and they just say, hey, twice a week, we're going to do one during the middle of the day. We're going to do one kind of in the evening for the people that can't make it to our office during the day. And we're going to do a live Periscope tour of one of our apartments twice a week. And you can sign up for the email alerts directly through their website. We send them an email just as a reminder. Hey, it's noon on Wednesday. The Periscope tour starts in 20 minutes. Make sure that you're logged in. If you want to ask questions, you can do that through the app. Here's the link how you would do that. People tune in. They watch the tour. We'll get anywhere from 20 to 100 people take an apartment tour all at the same time.
Wow. That's powerful. Right? I mean, that is just, it blows my mind how advanced technology has become in just the past couple of years.
Right.
I mean, this is just things like Periscope. They're in their infancy now, right? How long's Periscope been around?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what, 7, 8
just over
months?
a year.
Okay, a year. Okay,
Yeah.
So very short period of time. That's extremely, extremely powerful. And so, going back to talking about those that are listening in that, really want to help build their own personal brand and their own credibility. I mean, if you're already in the rental space, or even if you're out there just looking at deals, I mean, if you're out there, let's say you're going on site to look at a property, do a property tour of something that you have an interest in buying. I mean, pull out your phone and do a live Periscope video or whatever. It could be a tour of the property itself. You could be talking through to your followers about, the property you're looking at, the opportunity you see, why you're excited about it, the downsides to it, location, whatever it might be. I mean, just to link credibility to yourself. Everything that you do in that aspect is going to be helpful to your followers. I mean, they're going to find a tidbit of advice or, some kind of golden nugget out of that Periscope that you did. And again, it goes back to lending credibility to yourself. So it's powerful. It just blows my mind.
One thing I would say about that, Kevin, about the credibility thing is, we're marketers, and people see through marketers all the time, right? I think Seth Godin is the one that said marketers ruin everything. And what we see is social media is really powerful, not just for helping to build your own presence through some of these tools, but really for building that social proof in a way that you could never do through your own marketing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably the most important thing that we try and get into the heads of our customers, is to really talk about how do you get other people talking about you, mm-hmm. whether that is creating a photo opportunity that other people can snap and share on Instagram, or whether it's providing a great experience so that they talk about it with their Facebook friends or tweet about it. Like, what are the things that they can do? Can get other people to watch that video and share it and comment on it, so that everybody in their network sees that they're talking to this guy, or this woman doing a live video. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the stuff that's where social media is really powerful, is that you've got this network effect of, if you can get someone to share for you, you're instantly influencing hundreds of people, not just that one.
Yeah, which is the perfect segue into the second topic of today, when we've already kind of overlapped a little bit, because some of the things we're talking about could definitely be utilized in helping grow your existing property, or maybe it's a property you're just buying. And Mike, what I'd like to do is I want to talk from a standpoint of, and I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe some of your operators or some of your clients are operators that sometimes every now and then they get into like a value add type property, something that needs to be slightly repositioned. Maybe it's, okay, so you're familiar with that. And I'm sure that you've been brought on board in those situations to help maybe change the reputation of a property, maybe increase its occupancy. Maybe it's something they're going to do a complete turnaround on, where they're going to renovate all the units and, kind of cycle through the existing tenants that are there and raise rents. They're looking for a different demographic to fill the place up with. So, and a lot of our listeners, they love the value add game. So a lot of the people that listen mm-hmm. to this show, that's all we do. We're in the manufactured housing space, and that is the only types of properties that we get into. So we're always going into a project, something that needs to be drastically turned around. The perception, the reputation needs to be completely flip-flopped for that property. And so I want to talk to it from that perspective as to how we can utilize these tools, the power of the web and these social media tools that we're talking about to help us get through a property like that, a value-add property that we're acquiring. Do you have some tips or strategies that you might want to discuss with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and we see this even with new lease ups, that we're in this huge boom in a lot of cities across the country where there's, construction cranes everywhere. And it's really difficult in those situations, where you're marketing a hole in the ground at this point, right? And so it's very similar, and we see a lot of correlation there in terms of the approach. But the way that we look at that is you just have to sell the dream of where you're going and what you're building, and you have to convince people that that's something that they should be interested in, so that when you're ready for that new audience in 6 months or 9 months or a year from now, that they've seen the story as you've been building it. Hopefully you've done some things to again go back to that rented versus owned. Hopefully you use social media to get them back to your website, get them to sign up for some emails or something like that, so that you can just be constantly pushing. Like, I think the best thing to think about there is just communicate where you're going and what you're trying to accomplish. Because people, if you over communicate up front, people are willing to see past, living in a construction zone, or people are willing to see past that, hey, maybe that wasn't maybe that C property isn't something that appeals to me right now, but I really love the location. And if they can clean that place up a little bit, then I would love to live there.
Right.
And if you can tell that story and you can show what you're going to be doing and the amenities you're going to be adding and services you're going to provide, then that is, social is the ideal place to do that. And, I think that the important thing to think about there is that it doesn't live on an island. So the social media stuff is a great way to communicate it, and it's a great way for other people to help you spread the word. But you still need to do all of the offline marketing that powers that. Mm-hmm. So, think about, think about what I just said about like creating the photo opportunity, right? So let's say you're doing a repositioning of a property. Well, maybe you find a local business partner. You find maybe you do a wine tasting, or you bring in a local chef and you do some kind of like food tour of the neighborhood or something along those lines. Like, figure out how can I host an event? Hey, we had a client rent a food truck and put it in the parking lot of their new building. And they basically paid for lunch for everybody for like an hour and a half. And all you had to do to buy your lunch was follow them on social media, and you took a picture and you shared it with their hashtag. But like, they created the events that fueled the social media. Mm-hmm. So those are the kinds of things that I think you have to do, is understand what story you're trying to tell, and then figure out how can you put the pieces in place so that social media helps you tell that story as you're building.
That's an impressive campaign you suggested there with the food truck. How did that work out for that person? Was that one of your clients that utilized that strategy?
It was, yeah. And I can't take any credit. Like, they came up with the whole thing.
That's brilliant.
We just helped with the social media part. But I think they had 700 people come by the property in the course of 2 hours.
Oh my gosh!
And I think we ended up with about 400 pictures shared on social media.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't have the exact numbers on the total number of people that we reached, but I can tell you that was actually a smaller building. I think it was like 60 units total, and they were able to lease that building up way ahead of schedule. I think they had the whole building leased up in 4 or 5 months.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible. Yeah, that's quite impressive for a 60-unit building to have that many photos floating around and that many people show up at that. I mean, what, that probably cost them $3,000, something like that. I mean, it's pricey, but really, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to advertising costs, it's nothing. I mean, because those images continue to float around social media, and the reach is just infinite. So
yeah, I mean,
very impressive.
You think of the lifetime value of all those renters, and
Oh, that's huge.
That's well worth it.
That's huge. So I want to talk about from a website perspective of a property. Are there any particular like opt-in strategies you guys utilize on your websites? Like any stuff that you might give away for free in order to actually capture email addresses? I mean, what has worked for you guys? And I know you're a different type of operator. You guys are big. You're talking massive portfolios, but I'm sure those same kind of tactics can translate over to even the smaller operator.
Well, you know what I'll say about this is I think that the smaller operators actually have an advantage when it comes to this, because with the larger operators, typically every business, every property is running as a separate business with a separate P&L and a separate marketing budget. In a lot of cases, they miss opportunities to share marketing resources in any given market. And what we see with smaller operators is that, if you're marketing a fourplex or a 20-unit building or a 50-unit building, in a lot of cases, it doesn't make sense to brand that property. It might have a name, but you're not dumping resources into that individual property. And, certainly those properties aren't ideal for advertising on the big listing sites.
Right.
You're not going to go spend $1,500 a month or whatever it is on Apartment Guide for your 20-unit building.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking more just to drive leads. You're not necessarily looking for everyone to know the name of your apartment complex, your 20-unit
absolutely
complex. Yeah.
But I think the opportunity that we've seen, and we've kind of broken this out into, we have our own framework that we work in terms of how people shop, and then what that means for how your marketing needs to align with that. But for the operator, I would really focus on building that regional presence. I talked to the guy in Southern Ontario. He's got 8,000 units around Toronto. And everything that he does, all of his marketing is just pushing people into the company website, into the corporate website. And he's got all of his properties listed there. Even with his brand new buildings, instead of going off and building a separate website, he pushes all the traffic into his corporate website. People, they want to check out the new building. They want to see the hot new amenities and all of, like, how much is this one going to cost, that kind of a thing. But then guess what? All of those people trickle down to the other properties in the portfolio. And so he's sharing the marketing dollars, sharing the resources. And because he's built that regional brand, he's spending a lot less money on marketing overall.
Gotcha. Okay, so that approach works best for him, actually have him collective all on one site and driving everything to that one site rather than having individual websites. Okay. And
we're seeing this work in other places around the country too, where if you can say, because if you think about how people shop for an apartment, in your case, I might not know the name of your property when I'm starting to look for an apartment, but I know that I want a 2-bedroom in Clearwater, Florida. Mm-hmm. And so if I can build my presence around, if I can be the best answer for that person looking for the 2-bedroom apartment in Clearwater, then I can show them a lot of different options that might be a good fit. And then we just help them through the shopping process.
Right. Okay.
So, from your website perspective, I think that that's really what we've seen is the best approach is start with that regional shopper and then provide the content to help them maneuver down to the properties that are the best option. And don't be afraid to ask for their contact information very, very early on in that process.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And is it commonplace nowadays? And I know that the apartment space is hot. I mean the rental market is. It's completely shifting. We're turning into a nation of renters. I understand that. And so, yep. Is it still commonplace to offer incentives for referrals and things of that nature? Is that just pretty much a guarantee that if someone moves in and they refer someone else, they get some kind of spiff or maybe a decrease in rent the following month or a gift certificate or something like that? Or is that only in times of need?
No, you got to be careful about that. There's only, there's a lot of local jurisdictions and even states that don't allow that at all.
Really? I had no idea.
Yeah, I know that Florida limits the spiff that you can provide. I know that states like North Carolina say that referral bonuses are not allowed. So you have to be careful about that. But in the markets where that's an option, I think it's always a good thing to put that stuff out there. I think that there's a lot of different ways to provide value and create incentives without giving money away. Mm-hmm. Apartments are a beautiful thing because we don't have to create scarcity. Like we can't add more apartments to a building once we're full.
Right.
So we can create and in a market like we're in, certainly we're seeing overbuilding in some places, but in a lot of markets, it's a really good time to be an operator, and you can use that to your advantage if you apply some sales psychology on your website to say, hey, listen, these apartments aren't going to be available forever. Like, people are moving in every day. If you want to look at this place, you need to contact us and, create some of that urgency, create some of that scarcity, and get people into your leasing process earlier.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great advice. Okay, and just one last thing here I want to talk about, Mike, before I let you go, because I know I've had you on the horn now for close to an hour, so we're kind of rounding out our time together, is I want to talk about online applications and the tenant screening process. Is it commonplace with most of the operators you work with to where if I had an interest in one of their apartment communities that I could actually go through the entire application process online now and actually go as far as getting an answer? Or what does that process look like for these big time operators? And how, I want to know how that translates to our smaller operators that we're talking to today.
Yeah, we certainly see that more and more operators are moving to the online lease, and that's not just bigger operators. There's all kinds of services out there that provide the online applications and even the background checks and credit checks and everything, the deposit processing, everything you need to facilitate that process. The one thing that I would say about that is, again, go back to how people shop for apartments. I think what we see is that people get really excited about the online application technology. They get excited about the prospects of automating those systems and taking a piece of the workload, off of the backs of their on-site teams. But that's not necessarily what I'm looking to do if I haven't seen the apartment yet. We certainly see that there are plenty of people, and a growing number, who are willing to apply online sight unseen, especially in the student housing market. But in most cases, and your mileage may vary, but in most cases, people want to see you. They want to schedule a tour. They want to see the apartment they're going to rent before they fill out their application. So, yes, there are all kinds of tools out there to help facilitate the online application process, and people can rent an apartment without ever talking to anybody today. Yes. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's what you ask for in your marketing.
Right. Well, I bring that up because we have not done that. We have not gone that route, but we are definitely changing our site. Every single one of our community sites around right now, we are changing it to where there actually is an online application process, and they go through it. Only because we've had, over the past year, we've had a significant number, in 3 of our communities I'm talking about primarily, 3 of the communities, we have a significant number of individuals that most of them were like a job transfer. They were looking to transfer one state to the location where our community was. And we've had a few of those people. I mean, we wouldn't email an application, kind of do it that way, kind of it's kind of old school methods, but we've had multiple people move into our communities that did it sight unseen, other than just photos that we've sent, which really, it's kind of unjust. I mean, just to send photos, because I could be taking them at the perfect angles, avoiding the holes in the wall, and the bugs crawling on the wall and things. But we've had a lot of people put trust in that process, and so we figure, hey, I mean, we've had such a big number over the past year. Why not just make it easier for them? Let's put the application online and have them, have the ability to actually make a payment for the application online, and just make it easier, make it more streamlined. So
it's one of those things, when people are making that decision, they might talk to you and make the decision at 10 o'clock at night. And if you can make the application available so that they can fill it out in their pajamas, then it just makes life easier for everybody. Right,
exactly. Well, good deal. Mike, this has been a lot of fun. I mean, lots of great advice that you share with us today. And before we get going here, are there any parting words or anything that you feel that we might have missed that would be absolutely critical as it pertains to the 2 topics that we've discussed today?
Invest more in photography.
Okay.
And if you look at where websites are going, if you look at where social media is going, it's all super visual. I mean, Facebook newsfeed is full of videos and pictures. Pinterest and Instagram and Snapchat are the apps of the day. We've talked about Periscope, which is all video, but I would much rather, if you have, just throwing numbers out there. If you have $10,000 for a website, spend $5,000 of it on photos and spend the other $5,000 on the website, because you're going to end up with a much better, much more presentable product that will sell your company and sell your properties much more effectively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's great advice. I mean, people shop by photos. I mean, even Craigslist. I give this advice to people so we do mobile home parks, which they're not glamorous, right? I mean, there's nothing. I mean, they're trailers, is what they are. I mean, we take care of our trailers and we value our communities and our properties and things like that. But still, they're trailers. But I can tell you that when we are competing with other communities in particular locations, that we do not have issues with leasing up, and we typically run a much lower vacancy rate than the competing communities. And primarily it's because our pictures are better. I know it's so simple, but I mean, we literally take time and energy and effort to make sure that our photographs that we take of our properties, interior, exterior, and of the community itself, that we are posting on the Craigslist ads and things like that, are premier. I mean, they're as good as they can possibly be, right? I mean, we take them at the right timing, we use the right lighting, things like that, and it sells. It at least gets people there to the community. Now, we don't try to be misleading with our photographs. We don't try to make it look like it's something that it's not, with like a beautiful sun setting in the background and like, grass meadows and things like that. But, I can tell you that it definitely, it makes our phone ring, and most of it's because of the photographs themselves. And the copy has a lot to do with it as well. Definitely spend time writing your copy. Make sure that you effectively outline all the amenities and all the benefits of living in that community, the convenience to the other major cities around that, around that location and things like that. And it definitely will drive more leads your way. So, well, Mike, this has been a lot of fun. I've had a great time with you. It's a pleasure meeting you. I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your wisdom with all of our listeners. And for those of you that want to learn a little bit more about Mike and his company, you can actually go visit him at 30lines.com. And that's the number 30 lines, LINES.com. And Mike, that's all we have for today. I appreciate you coming on, bud. You take care and have a great week.
Thanks so much, Kevin.
Congratulations! Now you've got more of the best tricks of the trade in building massive amounts of passive income from real estate. For more amazing resources, visit realestateinvestingforcashflow.com. And we'll see you next Monday morning.